Unfortunately, AMD stock price is down roughly 3.8% after hours. The main reason, AMD recently announced their preliminary third quarter results, and unfortunately they're lower than their prior outlook. It's funny how the market works. This preliminary results came out after hours, and a few hours before the market closed, I released this video. In the video I mentioned we haven't heard anything from AMD, but like we saw a few hours later, AMD released this information. So let's take a closer look.
I do want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and make sure to check out fool.com/Jose to get the top 10 stocks to buy right now.
So I'm not just going to read the preliminary results, I'm also going to share my thoughts of what's happening in the back end. First, they mentioned preliminary third quarter revenue is approximately $5.6 billion. This is much lower than their prior outlook of $6.7 billion. The main reason is weaker client segment revenue. With this new revenue number, it would actually be down 15% quarter over quarter, but it still will be up 29% year over year. Again, a good portion of that revenue growth is most likely coming from the acquisition of Xilinx that this company completed earlier this year. The company does mention two important things that I think investors should know. The first one is they mention the weakness is coming from the client segment. For those not familiar, the client segment, these are the processors that go on laptops, desktop, and the ones that you can kind of purchase off the shelf. The second thing, they mentioned that revenue for data center, gaming, and embedded segments each grew significantly year over year and in line with the company's expectations. And honestly, I'm super happy with that second point. I think for an investor that might have a short time frame, maybe less than a year, you don't want to see revenue decline that much. But if you are a long-term investor and you continue to hear that, hey, there's still huge growth in data centers, there's still huge growth in gaming, there's still huge growth in the embedded segment, it kind of still gives you that positive outlook that this is a company that will continue to do well in the long term of things. We talked about it in this channel, but they mentioned the client segment revenue decrease is mainly due to the reduced processor shipment due to a weaker than expected PC market and significant inventory corrections actions across the PC supply chain. Again, this is something we've talked about numerous times in this channel, so it's not something we should be surprised about. Another thing I do want to mention that's very important is AMD just recently released their 7000 series. And I want to say, let's say I was a consumer and I wanted to buy a new processor. Instead of buying those 5000 series, I would actually have waited off for the 7000 series. And with the overall kind of world shifting and the macroeconomics affecting everything right now, I would say that that would also push kind of the revenue slowdown in the kind of client segment, because there might have been many consumers that instead of purchasing a new laptop, that instead of purchasing a new desktop or a new processor, they were waiting for the next generation to come out, which came out in late September. With new processors also coming out and the overall kind of macroeconomic, it also pushed client processors to have a lower average selling price. Again, this is something that's expected, especially as a new generation is coming out. And if you are enjoying the episode so far, please give me a thumbs up, as it does help me grow my overall audience. If you want to support a little bit more, make sure to subscribe using my link at fool.com/Jose. There are a few things that they mentioned. First, non-GAAP gross margins are taking a hit. They were expected to be 54%, now expects to be somewhere around 50%. Again, understandable if you are kind of selling less products and those products are selling at a less average selling price compared to normal. The second thing that they mentioned is they approximately have $160 million of charges, primarily from inventory pricing and related reserves in the graphics and client business. Outside of the client, they do show us how the revenue is expected to grow quarter over quarter for all their other segments. Data center is up 8% quarter over quarter and 45% year over year. I'm super excited to see that data center growth. The gaming market is pretty much flat quarter over quarter, up 14% year over year. The embedded market, I wouldn't take a closer look at year-over-year growth because it's non-existent last year. This is all thanks to the acquisition, and that was up 4% quarter over quarter. I do want to say they do mention in their previous earnings that the embedded market was still seeing some supply chain issues. I wonder if that's still the case, and if that wasn't the case, what would have been the true growth in the embedded market? The other thing that they mentioned is in the data center market, they were also seeing supply constraints, not from their products, but obviously to build the data center and these servers, you need to have numerous of components. Some of those components were not able to meet the kind of deadlines, so customers were not purchasing all the products they needed, which kind of caused a bit of a slowdown in the data center market. Even with that, they were still able to grow 8% quarter over quarter and 45% year over year. At the end of the day, I'm still bullish in AMD. I do believe in the short term, things can be a little bit bumpy, but there is some good news, right? We saw that data center growth, we saw that embedded growth, and overall, right now, the major weakness is in the PC and the consumer market. Obviously, at any moment, things can change and we might see a turnaround in the data center market. And that's something that I'm also expecting, not something I want to say would be excited for, but it's something I'm expecting in the short term of things. Anything could happen, but like I mentioned, long term, I'm super excited for AMD and this investment. So take care, have a good day, and see you next time.